Okay.
needs to go forward.
So Beth has asked for us to look at the position of the, what's the actual name of this position? Is it assistant to the library? Is it the assistant library director? Help me to understand.
It's actually the deputy library director.
Deputy library director. And so, and this has been predicated by the fact that we need to have a succession plan as we anticipate perhaps retirements in some time in the near future. Not immediately, but looking forward to keep our succession plan in place. So maybe you can just start to review the concerns that you have and the things that you'd like to change about that.
Sure. Thank you, and thank you all for your time tonight. I appreciate this being referred to the Personnel Committee. This is actually part of a larger reorganization that you'll hear more about through the budget process. And part of that is that I also currently have an assistant director position that is vacant, that I am going to be proposing to eliminate. So part of this revision also incorporates putting into the deputy director position and then also into my position some of the work that the AD, the assistant director, would have been doing. So in looking at reviewing the deputy director position, I discovered a few things that I needed to change. And as you pointed out, Sylvia, going forward, if I'm rehiring for this position, would want to be in place at that time. So one of the things that came up first that was the supervision responsibility under the deputy director. It was odd to me that it only covered a few of the department heads and left out the youth services department head. So, and actually in practice, that's not really what's been happening, but that is what I'd like to have going forward. So I added in the youth services department head and then kept the adult services, circulation services, and technical services department heads under the direct report of the deputy director. And then as I went through the rest of the job description, and if there's anything specific that jumped out to anybody, just stop me and I can answer the question, but I won't go through all of the redlining. But I saw things that really just kind of maybe overstated the discretionary responsibilities, the independent discretionary responsibilities of the deputy director. This position, while certainly senior level and certainly has a lot of latitude, does have to run things through me ultimately. So I added a lot of language that was simply like assists or in collaboration with the library director into the document, just to make it a little bit more accurate as to how I would expect that relationship to be in the future. And it is actually how that relationship works now. So I would like to just codify that. I did add in some language in number 4. The deputy director does create all of the schedules for the staff, and that had not been in there. And again, just working with the direct reports to ensure the goals of the library collection development policy are being met under number 6. That's going to be a revamp of our collection development policy that we're going to be currently working on, and that will be part of that responsibility through the department heads. So other than that, that was pretty much my goal for revising the deputy director. Not a huge change, but just maybe some better definition of those job responsibilities. And then that did have a domino effect into the library director position, job description. So I added in, I took out the youth services department head, but I added in overseeing the technology coordinator and the social media coordinator. And that's because those 2 positions were previously supervised by the assistant director. And the reason that I've moved those under my supervision is because those 2 functions, all the technology for the library and all of the marketing communications, I feel is really a library-wide, very public-facing, broad scope that I think it's important for me to have direct responsibility for, to make sure it's done correctly. And then I also added in the director of art classes. So Joanne, as you all know, that is under my supervision, but it has not been put into this job description. And I think those were the biggest changes that I made to these.
We all need to know how the library functions and all of the things that go there, and you do a great job of managing it as you do, but I think some of us, including me, are not always aware of the the process of communicating among the employees. And so I think this is a good start. So it's great. Just one of the things, and it's totally out of order, but I want to just speak to it before I forget. When you say you're supervising the art classes and Joanne is that person who is under your, are you supervising her as the arts place director, or is this just for the classes that are arts related at the library? I'm not clear on that.
So her official title is Director of Art Classes, and she
Okay,
reports to me. I don't supervise, I'm not there on a daily basis supervising all that. So I really, she reports to me, and it's more of an administrative role in terms of how the organization of Arts Place runs, but she does all of the on the ground work there.
okay, and she's the one who submits the budget separate from the library for Arts Place, correct? Or
She
is that
does,
part of your library budget?
No, it's separate, but we're under the same
Under the
umbrella,
same-
so we're under cultural services. But she does do that in conjunction with me, so I review it with her. We talk about the strategies and what she needs and what her plans are. And then we always review the personnel aspect and the operational budget with the town manager and the HR director together.
Okay, and I must admit, that's one that I never realized that connection. So that's new for me. So committee, have you had a chance to look at these things, and do you have questions before I go through mine? Peter or Don, questions? Yep.
I have a couple questions. Hi, Beth. Just a
Beth.
quick thing. I'm a little confused. This deputy library director is going to be phased in as retirements happen. Is that
No, it's a current position that exists. So,
okay?
so I have essentially two, I have an assistant director and a deputy director, which I
Okay.
think is a little overkill for,
So you're just changing the title.
the title is what it is now. The
Right.
title is a deputy library director position. Then I also had a position that was assistant library director.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I do like that you're pulling the personnel issues out. I think you as the director should be the one handling any personnel issues along with whoever's handling HR at the town hall. I think that's a smart move on your part.
Mhm.
Monetarily, for the how does this change? Is this going to increase your budget because of this? So no, because I know last year we did pull about, I think, $60,000 out of your budget.
Mhm.
And I wasn't sure if this was trying to put it back in or not, but so it's not going to change monetarily. It's just basically you're just changing their role and what their job description is to make it. It sounds like it's going to make things a little bit easier for you as well to manage too. So I think it's a smart thing to do. But is that how I see it? Is that your
Yeah, I can clarify a little bit more. So the assistant director position has been vacant since about July. This was a position, the person who was in it before, due to medical accommodations, was home during most of the pandemic, working from home. And then she resigned. And at that point, I decided I really, it was a great opportunity, because when I came on board, this was not something I was used to in industry, of having two assistant directors, even if they were called different things. So I took it as an opportunity to kind of test the waters for the past 6 months to see if I really could do without the position, and I can. So without the assistant, so I'm going to be taking money from the assistant director position and moving that into adding 5 hours into the deputy director position, because it's currently 30 hours a
Right.
week. And then you'll see some others. So it's going to, I think it might net out a savings in the end, but it won't add money to the budget.
We like the savings part. That's good.
I,
Yeah, so
I tried, Don. I tried.
all right. Well, thank you.
Peter, did you have a question or a comment?
I do. Thank you. Hi, Beth.
Hi, Don. I mean, Peter, sorry.
So it appears to me, I understand what you're doing, and more to come budget time, but it seems like I'll say you, are trying to figure out what the best way to how to term this. We're taking some of the higher level responsibility away from the individual. So, where it was, and let me just kind of cite some of the language. So instead of independent discretion, it's under general, assisting, we're using different words that are, to me, not as high level of a position. Is that, plans, manages has been changed to assists. Is this just to fall more in line with what the position is actually doing, or I don't know.
Yes, it's not downgrading it.
I'm not asking a very good question. Let's
Yeah,
put it that
no,
way.
I understand what you're saying. It's not downgrading what they're currently doing. It is more accurately reflecting what the job is right now. I think my intent, and I'd be open to any wordsmithing that people might have if that was better. But my intent is to imply that these decisions are not made unilaterally by this position. So, when we're talking about planning budgets and operational objectives, those all have to come through me. So while I certainly in practice would give this person a lot of latitude, it tends to be my management style anyway, I still felt it was important just to not have someone have the impression that they had carte blanche to just make these decisions without having them approved by me.
And if I could add one thing, Peter, in terms of other similar job descriptions throughout the town, the term with independent discretion or with a great deal of independent discretion, those are not terms that we traditionally use. And for the deputy and assistant positions, including mine, the language assists, and it's very similar language to what we have in other job descriptions.
Under general direction.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I noticed it in the library director position too, that one seemed to back off where it was with regard to supervision and that. So
It was the
I
only job
hear what-
description that had that.
Yeah, I hear your concern, Peter, but you don't want to keep people from reaching their best potential and doing the job and making reasonable decisions about the jobs they have to do. On the other hand, the buck stops with Beth. That's basically, I think, what you're trying to accomplish. Is that correct? I mean, I would think if I'm your assistant deputy, your deputy director, and you aren't there, and I have to make a decision, my decision would be supported with an immediate response, and then you might come to me and say, well, you made that decision this time, but next time we need to think about this or this or this. Is that correct? Am I simplifying it too much?
No, I think that's correct. I mean, my expectation is that this is the person that can run the library in my absence and make those independent decisions when I'm not there.
Right.
However, the day-to-day sort of longer term operational planning and designing of budgets and services and things like that, that wouldn't be the expectation that the person would do that without my input.
And I'm only going to speak from personal experience, and I know you have a union job. This is not necessarily union, but you work within the frame of some union employees. When I was an independent business owner, I owned the business and it was my job to make the decisions. However, if you were my manager and I was gone for 2 weeks, you had the unilateral ability to make the decisions for my business. I mean, that's the way it was. So I see the practicality of that. That makes perfectly good sense. And as a manager, it was up to me to make sure that you knew what I expected of you while I was gone, and that I would support your decisions as best I could until we had an opportunity to resolve an issue if it was one. Okay. So
Absolutely.
the language is I hear what you're saying, Peter. I get it. It's sort of one of those lines that's a difficult one to walk. Is this something, Arnett, that should just be accepted because it's similar to what we have? Or if we are understanding the intent of this, is this something that has to be reviewed by Jeff, town attorney?
It does. I do not think it has to be reviewed by Jeff. It was reviewed by our human resources director, and as Beth had mentioned, this more accurately represents the formal relationship. And again, this is very similar to the language and the intent that was of the job description that was created for the assistant town manager. It's a very similar type of relationship. When Sean is not here, I have the ability to make certain decisions. I also have a responsibility to make those decisions based on not only the circumstances, but what I also think Sean would want, because it's ultimately he is the town manager. But I do think this language captures, without taking anything away from a deputy, I think it captures it. I think it does reflect what other types of job descriptions state. I will also, and I don't know if you know this, but the current library deputy director is going to be retiring. I can even say that. So there are going to be some major changes anyway. When you've haven't a deputy who's been doing it for a very long time, they know the role. When you're bringing someone new in, I think we need to be very clear as to what their role is and where they are on the organizational chart. So.
And I agree with that. I also believe it works the other way, as Mike is finding out, being now the senior person in that department. When this new person comes in, there has to be a way to easily transition to you, the senior position, or the new library director. Please don't leave, because we like
No,
what you
she
do.
can't.
I'm staying.
No, but we have to look at the reality, and that could happen. And so the language has to be transferable either way, so that the person who's in the deputy position, if they are not elevated to the library director, knows their place when the new library director comes in. Does that make sense?
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I mean, I think it needs to be clear. So we can't base it on a personality of Beth and Deb. We need to
Right.
base it on the two positions, a director and a deputy director. So,
Exactly.
Sylvia, the only other thing I had was, Beth, on page 2 of the deputy position in your new number 5, with the change, prepares should become prepare.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
oh, you're so smart, Peter. Oh my gosh. I missed that
And I
one.
had one question.
I know you.
And the teacher in me could like
Following that to number 6, where it says works with direct, you removed reviews and orders all new books, periodicals, and microfilm materials, and changed it to works with direct reports to ensure goals of library's collection and policy are being met. So does that mean they're not doing the ordering? Or I don't even know this day and age how many books and things you have to order, or if it's all electronic now.
It's definitely not all electronic, but I would say that this is a little bit of an organizational or maybe philosophical change that I'm putting in that I should have explained. So thank you for calling this out. It's my experience that the librarians, so the professional librarians and the senior librarians, should be purchasing the materials. They are responsible for a particular collection, and they should be purchasing the materials. It seems like a lower level task to be giving to the deputy director. And I really think it takes away from that position's ability to do higher level work with me, to be responsible for purchasing the collection. It actually does take up quite a bit of time, both the electronic buying and the physical material buying. So one of my goals in the new collection development process is to move some more buying responsibilities to the librarians and have their direct supervisors, so the people that the deputy director will be supervising, manage that process.
So you'll be changing their job descriptions now too.
I think it's already in their job description.
Is it in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah,
You
no,
make
I
it-
just noticed that because I said, I don't know, does that mean we're not ordering anything anymore? But so you're gonna, which makes sense because, you know, if they're in the youth area or the children's area or the adult area, they know better than what the director would know. So I get that. Okay.
Exactly.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Any other concerns?
I just have
Yeah,
one more comment. One of the things I like about the direction that Beth is taking with the library is, first of all, I think it's going to be more efficient, but the time and effort is being redirected to the positions that directly serve the public instead of being perhaps a little too management heavy. She's putting the effort and the time in to directly serve our residents and the patrons, and I think that's a positive thing. So, thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Okay, well, do I have any further discussion, or are you prepared to be able to bring this to the council for their approval, gentlemen?
We're ready.
Okay, so who's going to motion that?
I'll make a motion that we move the job descriptions for the deputy, what is it, the deputy library director and the library director to the council for discussion and approval.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? We all are. So it's done. Thank you for your hard work at that. You're very thoughtful about how you go through those, so that's helpful, and I do think the library runs very well, and we will miss Deb, right, for sure.
We definitely will. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate the support as always. And I will
Okay.
say good night. Good luck,
Good
Mike.
night, Beth.
Thanks, Beth. Bye.
Thanks,
Talk to
Beth.
you
You
tomorrow.
get to go home, right? Okay, Mike, so you're on board. Welcome to the fray.
And if I could just say a few words
Yes.
first, and then I will shut up.
Yep.
That Mike is doing the same thing that, in a way, that Beth is doing. But he's doing it in a much more timely manner because he desperately needs to get some people in his department. But he is looking to make the department more efficient and to eliminate unnecessary staff, but to make sure that the staff is there, can do the work that needs to be done. I think he's done a great job. So I will let him present his ideas to you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I guess just to start off with kind of what Arnett started on, we have a retirement that's pending. At the end of the month, one of our admin staff is retiring. We had another admin, the full-time position that left to another department, which is vacant. Full-time environmental planner left to another community. So I have a part-time employee right now that's stepping in the role, who's doing a tremendous job of what was basically a person and a half. And the department's functioning. We're busy. And this structure, what we're proposing, is consistent with what the workload is for the department, but also looking at some of the needs that we need for skill sets for individuals to provide the highest level of service to the public and also to the land use commissions that we staff. So maybe I'll go over the first job description would be the assistant town planner position, which years ago there was an assistant town planner position in addition to a full-time environmental planner and a part-time zoning enforcement officer here. We don't need that level of bodies. You can accomplish the work with one individual who would be serving as the zoning enforcement officer and the wetlands enforcement officer. And really a lot of the changes to this are kind of structural, like saying the roles and responsibilities, combining them, but more importantly, also adding in qualifications such as the zoning enforcement officer needs to be certified with the Connecticut Association of Zoning Enforcement Officials starting January 1st, 2023. It's a requirement. The wetlands officer was not in the job description previously. In order to serve as a wetlands officer, you need to be certified with Connecticut Deep Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Office. And then lastly is the Aquifer Protection responsibility, because this office is responsible for aquifer protection too. So it puts in a lot of the certifications that are required. The other is just the structure. The assistant town planner would also serve as in my absence if I was gone, and just kind of what the same conversation that we had earlier. It's kind of giving them the skill set, but not saying that a lot of the larger issues that they need to handle. It's that short fix where Mike's on a vacation or Mike's out on, or the town planner, let's not say, maybe it's not Mike down the road, is absent. This individual can fill into that role. So we, that's really it for this one, this job. I don't know if anyone, do you want to go each position one by one, or you would like me to go through all three?
While we're on each one, I think that's helpful to kind of get the sense. If you have questions, this is going to be a quote new position because it's combining positions that are open currently. There's no one doing any of these jobs, correct?
Correct.
So what budgetary impact is that going to have?
So you're going from 1.5 people working here to one.
Okay, but the salary for this person is obviously going to be greater or not?
We put it at a classification E2, so it's an
Okay.
exempt employee, and the range is just slightly higher than the environmental planner. But like I said earlier, you're also eliminating a part-time position, which was, serving the role as a part-time zoning enforcement officer.
Okay.
Which really, you want someone from an enforcement standpoint that's there 5 days a week, 35 hours a week, so that the public can get to them at any time during the business hours.
And how does would this person be the person that would be involved in the blight ordinance? Is that a separate?
We also put in there that this individual may serve as the blight prevention officer. The discussions have been that this person may serve at the town manager's discretion as the blight prevention officer, which, in all honesty, in my dealings with the blight ordinance in the community, probably the first 6 months that this blight ordinance comes into effect, that will take up a chunk of time. But will it take up all of the individual's time? No. It will be consuming for the first 6 months, but once we get a handle on enforcement cases, get things going, I think it's a manageable task for this individual to take on, in addition to the other roles of enforcement, basically enforcement officials.
Okay, thank you. Peter, question?
I'm good with the changes for the assistant.
Don?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I mean, you said that we had this position in the past. How many years ago was that? And how does this job description compare to that one? Is it a lot different?
So this one's really has a facelift. It modernizes and it combines with the zoning enforcement officer and environmental planner, some of the roles that person was responsible for. There are some carryovers, such as, like I said earlier, about stepping in for the department head in his or her absence. I think it was Arnett. Would it be, because Rebecca Auger may have been?
It have to be over 10 years ago.
2009. Does that sound right? Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this person's going to be the enforcement officer, which was a part-time position in the past. And so we'll eliminate that position. Okay.
Correct.
And then the inland wetlands person, was that Suzanne? What was Suzanne?
That was Suzanne.
That was Suzanne. So she is resigned. So that would be her position. And so it makes sense to me.
Yep,
And-
makes sense to me then.
And budgetarily, Suzanne was eligible for overtime.
Mhm.
And this is an exempt position.
It's fine.
Okay, all right. We can move on to the next one. We can approve them all at the end, but let's go through one at a time.
So the next one's a land use specialist. So that's the admin support, but in discussions with Sean and with Arnett, I explained that, it's more than just a secretary or an admin support that we have. There's a lot of technical aspects and skill sets. I mean, right now we have Jocelyn that's juggling all the commissions. She's doing a fantastic job, considering in the past there were multiple individuals doing this. We don't need two people, splitting up the land use commissions, especially we're getting more towards the age of digital. There's also, one of the things we've changed on this was the pay grade, because, this position, we're looking for a skill set that, some of the skills you acquire through college training you're going to come. So organization, the ability to research issues or assist with research, the other HR functions that occur in this office, that's really just tracking and coordination. The just record keeping, and I will keep stressing organization because it's huge, because we live and die by deadlines and statutory requirements, notification requirements, sharing of agendas, posting of packets, etc. So it's a little more simple than making copies, in addition to being able to juggle that while you are serving the public as they're coming in, looking to, triage which staff member do you need to see, which, is it something that really is handled by the planning department? Is this something that's maybe if it's a complaint, is it a public works issue? Is it parks issue? Assisting with that, but having that ability to kind of triage on the moment, it's a higher skill set. And even regardless if the individual right now was not retiring, I probably would come before you saying, she was deserving of an upgrade to begin with, just because of the level of service and what goes on in our office. But we felt that, one of the things, the qualifications that's changing, the skills, the desired knowledge and skills abilities, general knowledge is required, generally acquired with a bachelor's and 2 years of administrative work experience. I mean, kind of sums up why the classification's changing. I think right now it's a TH5 position, and we're going to a TH7. But as I said earlier, we're consolidating. So that's one full-time, let's say, and we pay the bills. One full-time admin that's in the office, but is handling a lot of things. And so we figured, in order to get the talent and, talent that's going to be able to provide the highest degree of service to the public and to the commissions, that's why we chose increasing the skill set required and then reflecting that on the pay scale.
Questions?
I'm good with this one too.
Yeah, no, this looks fine for me too.
Okay, that was easy. All right, and the third one is,
The last just is my job description, is
Right.
updating my job description to reflect all these changes of the staff members that are in the office, land use specialist, for example, and then also just the chain of command who I've been reporting to, Sean and Arnett or the town manager and assistant town manager as my direct reports.
that one's pretty easy. The question I have is, with the replacement of the land use person, does that give you any other administrative help in the office that is just answering the phones and not necessarily tied to skill sets of land management or whatever? What other support staff will you have for the basic everyday clerical functions, basically?
So that land specialist, that position will also provide that service. And that's a model that a lot of other communities have gone towards, versus having multiple admin staffs. You have one individual that wears both hats, has the administrative function of answering the phones, talking to the counter, is providing a higher degree of staffing support to the senior staff members.
And you're certainly experienced in this area. The concern I only have is we seem to be getting very busy with a lot of land use and building projects and economic development. I just worry that is not overwhelming for one position. I think that would be my only concern. I have no argument with it as it stands, but I hope that we can continue to keep the level up with just that one position without having to have somebody else. Questions, gentlemen?
More of a comment, and Arnett, what I think would be helpful, and I didn't notice this on Beth's, but it is on Mike's, the classification is on there.
Mm-hmm.
That's helpful to have.
Yeah,
I agree.
I will, I'll get those. I will confirm. I don't want to, I think I remember, but I will confirm and I will send that out after the meeting. So
That's
you
good.
have that.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I
Thank
think
you.
it's more that I think we should have them on all our job descriptions.
They should be.
Yeah.
They should be on everything. Yeah, it's important. That was my oversight, but yeah, I'll get that.
I think that both of these issues that we've talked about today go a long way in what the Personnel Committee's been concerned about and trying to find ways to get each department running more efficiently with upgrading to the new technologies and the new demands that they have in the office and having a structure. Many of these job descriptions haven't been looked at for many, many years, and the world is changing more rapidly than most of us would like to admit, right? Especially as I get older. So I think it's important to look at things with fresh eyes. And I personally think these changes are all very positive changes. And so I would ask that either Don or Peter would move this to the council.
I'll make a motion that we move the job descriptions for a land use specialist, the assistant town planner, and the town planner to the council for approval.
Second.
And all those in favor? We all are. Thank you. And thanks, Mike. That makes sense. And we will bring that. I think we can get this to the council agenda the first week in
March 8th.
in
So
March.
yeah, I know Mike's desperate to
Yeah,
start
I know.
advertising and getting
Right.
somebody in there. And I will say, not to embarrass you, Noel, but as you know, Sean did a similar thing in our office and took an admin position and elevated it. There are still administrative duties, but I will tell you, it is a very successful model.
Mhm.
So we're looking forward to it.
I think it makes everybody very much more efficient and much more give them more ownership of their
Yeah.
particular job. So I think it's excellent. So thank you for putting up with us. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Right?
Thanks, Mike.
See you, everyone.
And
night.
Thanks, Mike.
go
Good
home.
night.
And we just have one more quick thing. And Peter, if you have to leave, I'm not sure what the time. I guess we have some
Nope,
time.
we're still in
Yeah.
very good shape.
This is the conversation that we had that we wanted to bring forth in general to the council and the public to explain what we're what we're working on to kind of streamline the responsibilities for boards and commissions. It's a work in progress. I don't think there's anything here that we're going to vote on this evening, but you see the listing and it's just some suggestions about procedural meetings and so on and so forth. So I think we need a little time to digest it before we make a decision. We have some time to work it out. Have you had a chance to look at it? Do you have any comments or any additions or anything? It's just a matter, this is just delineating the responsibility of town clerks and for any board, commission, or committee. That would include the town council, any of the boards and commissions, and it would make it easier to manage all of the clerks because there are many of them. We have Marilyn, who is super, and she keeps us honest, and she gets the minutes done quickly and submits them usually within 24 hours. She's magic. But we want to make sure that everybody works to the same level. And when we have to replace somebody along the way or add one because the committees are busy, we have a specific job description for them. So have you looked at them and have you had any chance or any comments to make for tonight?
The only one I had, Sylvia, was right at the top, actually. Everything else seemed to flow, but do we want the recording clerks to be the ones that are filing the agendas or preparing the agendas and packets, or is that traditionally done by staff?
I think it's been traditionally done by staff, and that would maybe lead to another question as to who the clerks were and whether they were staff or not, or whether they were independent people that were chosen. So I think that's going to lead to a different discussion, but I understand your comment there, and we need to discuss that.
We actually have a combination. We do have a couple of committees where they had the minutes clerk prepare the agenda based on information they were given. They didn't prepare it on their own. and file the agendas. In a situation where there may not be an administrative person readily available, for example, the Prison Advisory Committee, which is no longer in existence, they really didn't have an admin and in the police department. So, but that being said, it's really the council's call as to how you want to standardize that. I personally find it much more effective if the staff, in conjunction with the chair of the board, commission, or committee, create the agenda. It's not a significant amount of work. The backup is a lot of work, but staff has to do that anyway. So have that be a requirement that the staff do that in conjunction with the chairs would not be burdensome.
Okay.
And
So
I
that-
guess too, my question was more based on compensation for that
Right.
particular duty. I mean, you know, they're not on the clock, so to speak. They're not at a meeting. They're not recording it or taking minutes or filing afterwards. So this is an extra duty that some may take advantage of, some may not. And how would we compensate these individuals for it?
Exactly.
It seems to me that it would be easier to just have them do a set role as opposed to doing some of these extra things as possibilities.
Right. Consistency is good. One of the responsibilities, though, is to file the minutes. And
Right.
that's incorporated in the hourly fee of attending the meeting. That's considered because of FOI, the person who takes the minutes should file them. And we can clarify that in the guidelines.
And certainly it's been working for Noelle. I don't know if she gets overwhelmed by it, but for all of our committee meetings, she does work with me or with the committee chairman to set the agenda. So that works. Don, did you have any?
Yeah, just I guess this will probably be discussed in order the type of recording, electronic recording we will be using for these meetings, because like for a council meeting or a plan and zoning meeting, which are video recorded, and you know, the clerk really doesn't have to submit anything, I assume, for that, because that's already been submitted. And the ones that they'll be submitting are more of the subcommittees or the smaller groups. But I'm assuming that when we'll have to discuss this as an ordinance, what kind of electronic recording and what kind of minutes we're going to need for this. So is this, I don't know, is this putting the cart before the horse, or is this, you know, do you think before we present this, do you think we should be meeting with ordinance, which is one more person, to discuss that end of it too?
If I could address that, we are well, I say we, I'm not included in this. Sean and Noelle are researching some recording devices. The council approved a policy, recording policy, which I think was included in.
It's on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what the goal is to make it as simple as possible for a recording clerk or a staff member to sit at a meeting, press a button, and then press another button. It's as simple as that. It's not going to be a difficult process for a minutes clerk to manage, and then staff would manage the retrieval of that particular audio recording. If someone needs a copy of the audio recording, we would maintain it. We'd probably have a cloud-based storage system, and we could share that with members of the public or any staff who wanted to listen to the audio of the full meeting. And then the minutes of the meeting, the written minutes, would then be a summary minutes where they would have the basic information, obviously the attendees, all of the motions, all of the votes, and basic general conversation. That was the intent of the policy. Of course, it's a council policy, so you can change, you can have it say whatever you'd like. And staff's happy to work with you on that. So
Exactly. I do know that. I mean, we had discussed, do they have to be there in person or not? But I think Peter brought up that, yeah, they might not recognize somebody's voice and they need to know who's speaking. So that is an important thing, that they need to be present for that.
yeah,
But I just think, you know, some of the I guess maybe we change the wording, submit the recording, electronic recordings of meetings that are not already uploaded to the cloud or whatever. That's the only thing.
To avoid
suggestion I would-
redundancy, yeah.
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 So
And we
let's-
are required to still, written minutes are the legal requirement. And FOI prefers that the person taking the minutes be in attendance at the meeting. They feel that something's lost. The only exception would be a transcription service, which once in a while planning and zoning needs to use for lawsuits. But generally, we don't need that level of detail.
So moving forward, the role of the Personnel Committee at most of these things would have to be developed to become an ordinance, if I'm not mistaken. So whatever or is this a job description? How are we working with the ordinance committee? How do we put these decisions into play? What's the mechanics of coming up with the job description and then making sure that we have those rules in place? Do we have to meet with the Personnel Committee? Personnel Committee is this committee plus the chairman of the Ordinance Committee, which is David Belliver. So together, if the four of us came up with a presentation to the council, a joint recommendation of those two committees. So going forward, we could work with them to come up with what we felt was the right plan. Is that right?
Sure. That
So,
would actually be, I think that would be an ideal way to do it.
Yeah, so we could just sit down, come up with something, and we can have a joint meeting with the two committees and then make a presentation at some point. And then that would go to the council for discussion and approval. Correct?
Yep. And you can have it either a policy or you could actually have it be an ordinance. The Ordinance Review Committee is involved. And I know that the Charter Revision Commission considered the possibility of this being an ordinance, and it could be the recording policy and also extend to what the requirements are for minutes clerks up unless and until the state statute changes.
Okay. And then how is the reimbursement or the pay, the process of being paid done? They're not town employees, so I assume they're contractors, or unless they're town staff, they would be paid and compensated by the town of Cheshire as a W.
Right. And there's also consideration to not having them vendors. This is something that Sean has discussed, and actually having them be staff, employees, which has a certain management advantage to it. There might be a cost differential, but that's something that Sean would probably like to speak with you about when we have this joint meeting.
Okay. So the point of this discussion basically was to let people know that this is something that's under discussion and we will be working on it. And it probably will be after we've completed the budget process that we come up with a final decision. Maybe we'll get efficient and get it done before all those budget meetings, but we will try to get that. And, there's some priorities, but we will continue to meet, and we will meet with David Belliver and see if we can come up with some solution. Agreed, gentlemen?
I
Okay.
appreciate you putting the list together. I think it's a good jumping off point for us, Sylvia.
Well, I didn't put it together. I think you did, Arnett, or Noel did. Somebody did. But it was based
Whoever
on
put it together
discussion
is
and our
a
notes.
real.
Right, exactly. Well, it was based on.
It's
input that
always
we
nice
did.
to have everything in one
It is.
place.
In one little
Yep.
place. So, and if
We
you can only
try.
find where you put it, then you'd be good. Right? So, all right, then if we don't have anything further, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.